I don't care how deep you planted them. You could have planted them a foot or two in the ground, but when they get a foot and a half tall. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having a wonderful day. It is Friday, April 18th here in South Georgia. And I was just out here working in the garden this afternoon, planting a few pepper plants. And I'm pretty pleased with how things are looking around here so far. And so as I was piddling around in these different garden plots out here, I got to thinking about some of the videos we've done over the last few months. We've done a lot of videos recently, tips for growing this, don't do this when growing this particular veggie. And we've got some really nice live action examples of those tips being executed out here right now. So in this video, we're going to revisit 6 completely random garden tips that we've mentioned on previous videos, but that now you can see kind of executed live out here right now. So let's jump right in with random tip number 1. When your onions are in the home stretch, when they're in that bulbing phase, very important to water them well to maximize your onion size. So we've documented fairly well that we're not going to have the best onion year ever, because after we planted these things back in November, they just kind of sat there for a couple months and didn't grow. That means we didn't get as many leaves on these plants as we would like. We're not going to have as many rings on our onions as we would like. And so once our onion plants start bulbing, like this one obviously has, we can't do anything to grow more leaves or rings on our onion. It's done growing leaves, it's just bulbing now. But what we can do is maximize that onion size with the leaves that we got. And we do that by watering well in the home stretch, watering well in that bulbing phase. Considering the amount of leaves we were able to produce, which wasn't a whole lot, I think we ended up doing all right. So these are the DP sweet onions I've already pulled. This is a earlier variety. It matures faster than those that are still in the ground. Not Goliath onions by any means, but I'm pretty happy considering the amount of leaves we had to work with. So even if you don't think you did a very good job growing enough leaves, water them well in that home stretch and you might be surprised with what you get. Random tip number 2, when you're growing taters or potatoes, like our friends up north like to say, you gotta feed and water them well. That is the trick to success when growing taters. So our raised bed taters here are looking fantastic, and you got to remember here, these still have another month to go. We planted these in the middle of February. Here we are a little past the middle of April, so still another 30 days to go on these. These plants are going to be huge come harvest time. And then our in-ground taters here are looking phenomenal as well. Really nice, consistent growth along the rows there. Couldn't be happier with how these are looking right now. And the formula there is pretty dang simple. This is not calculus, folks. You put down some balanced fertilizer when you plant the spuds, and then you feed them 2 more times, preferably when you're also hilling. Feed them 2 more times with a balanced fertilizer, and then you want to make sure, if you're not getting any rain, water those jokers every other day. If you do that, you should have a really bountiful tater harvest. Not only should you have a bountiful harvest of taters, you really shouldn't have to spray them for anything. I can't tell you the last time I've sprayed any taters around here. It's been years ago when my soil wasn't as fertile, when I didn't have a good fertilization plan, and when I didn't understand the importance of frequent watering with taters. Now it's fair to note we don't really deal with the tater beetle down here, but as far as diseases and any other insects that could attack tater plants, we really don't have any issues here. We keep those plants nice and healthy, we keep them happy, and they grow so fast nothing's really bothering them. And random tip number 3, a good way to counteract squash vine borers is by increasing your planting density. And by that I don't mean grow more squash, I mean plant more squash. So let's take this Golden Glory zucchini here, for example. I planted a whole seed pack in this little half a row right here. Obviously that's way too thick for squash. We don't want them that close together, but we plant that many so that we can eventually thin them out, and if a squash vine borer does get 1 or 2 of them, we've still got plenty. So we'll continue to let these plants get a little bigger once they get 2 foot tall or so, we'll start thinning them out. But this way we ensure we have some here. It's a lot better than just having 3 plants and crossing your fingers. So increasing your plant density is not going to make you impervious to squash vine borer damage, but it will increase your chances. Play the numbers game, and the probability of you having some plants to make it to the production stage will increase. Random tip number 4, and I can't even count how many times we've mentioned this on past videos, but hill your tomatoes. H-I-L-L your tomatoes. I don't care how deep you planted them. You could have planted them a foot or 2 in the ground, but when they get a 1.5 feet tall, get your garden hoe out and pull some soil around those plants right there. Get some of that nice fertile soil on top, pull it up around those plants, and they will explode with growth. And if you don't believe me, if you think that's hogwash, look at these 2 tomato plants right here that haven't been healed, that were planted shortly after those over there. Look at the stark contrast. These right here, they don't look bad, they're just kind of hanging out a little bit. Those over there have definitely popped. So don't try to come up with a bunch of reasons why you shouldn't heal your tomato plants or why you don't need to heal your tomato plants. Just do it. Trust me on this one. In addition to making those plants pop, it also helps you kind of kick the can down the road a little bit as far as needing to get your trellis up. So I wasn't quite ready to get my trellis up on mine. I do have my T-posts in place now, but healing them, mounding that soil around those plants, kept them nice and stable until I get ready to run some string on them next week. Additionally, don't even worry about that soil touching those leaves as you're mounding it around those tomato plants. No need to prune those leaves that will be covered with soil. Don't worry about it. Just heal them and you'll be glad you did. Random tip number 5, very, very important in the off season, whenever you take a break from gardening, to work on your weed seed bank. Try to reduce the number of weed seeds you have in your soil because it's going to make gardening so much easier. Now you could do that with a variety of methods. You could do it with cover cropping, you could do it with frequent shallow cultivation, you could do it with tarping, or a combination of any of those. But you gotta reduce the amount of viable weed seeds you have in your soil. That's gonna make gardening a lot more enjoyable. Prime example with this plot where we have our squash, cucumbers, peppers, and tomatoes planted. We had this plot tarped for a significant amount of time this past winter and even into the spring a little bit. Then we put a nice heavy layer of this bed mix on top. And believe it or not, since I took the tarp off this plot, I have not touched it with any kind of weeding tool. I have not weeded it once. Now we got some volunteer pea sprouts out there. I probably do need to weed it pretty soon, but you can see just how nice and clean it is without any interference by me. This is what I mean by making gardening easier. We're not out here every day fighting weeds. We can just fight the weeds maybe once a week instead. And as I told you on that video when we were discussing all these different techniques to reduce your weed seed bank before planting, I told you the last thing you want to do, what you don't want to do, is go out and till your garden, then plant directly after. You are asking for a disaster. So don't delay your planting too long. You still want to be timely with your planting, but take the time to work on that weed seed bank. Try to reduce the amount of viable weed seed you have before you plant, and you'll be a lot happier. You'll enjoy your garden a lot more. And lastly, random tip number 6, still talking about weeds a little bit here. Drip irrigation is going to drastically reduce the amount of weeds you have to fight in your garden. Prime example with this sweet corn we have planted here. Planted rather thick. We got 5 double rows. Got this on drip tape, and you can see not a whole lot of weed activity going on out there. I have cultivated this one time since I planted this corn, but that is it. So with that 15 mil drip tape and a 6-inch emitter spacing, I can run it for about an hour and a half at the time and keep this corn nice and happy. That space between my double rows, it can stay powder dry for all I care. I just want where those corn rows, want that soil to stay nice and moist so our corn can be happy. So not only are we taking less time to water, we're using less water, and I can promise you, if I had been overhead watering this plot, we would have pigweed all over the place right now. So there you go, 6 random, completely unrelated garden tips, but ones that we can show in action in our spring garden right now to show you that they work. And as always, you can find seeds for a lot of the varieties we grow around here on our website at lazydogfarm.com. And if you're thinking, hey, this drip stuff sounds pretty good, but I don't know how to install it, watch this video right here. We'll do a complete breakdown piece by piece how to install it in an in-ground plot. So check that out, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.